EU are all over the place when it comes to these Brexit negotiations. And yesterday, we saw them blink first again. This might not be information you're going to see on the mainstream media. I'm going to bring you all the very latest on this report here on the Westmonster channel. I would really appreciate it, guys, if you want to hit that subscribe button and the bell so you don't miss future videos. And of course, hit that join button if you want to become a supporter and help me do these reports nearly every day. Let's jump into this. Now, Telegraph with the headline, Michel Barnier blinks first and agrees to intensive post-Brexit trade talks on key sticking point. But I just want to give you the background to this because it was skirted over. And it's another example of the European Union being absolutely all over the place in these negotiations. Let's look at this report just from a few days ago last week in The Independent. EU leaders have dropped a pledge to intensify Brexit negotiations after this week's summit, in signs that Brussels is prepared to call Boris Johnson's bluff on his threat to walk away from trade talks. A leaked draft of conclusions prepared by officials ahead of the Thursday meeting, so this was ahead of the Thursday meeting even, had urged Michel Barnier to step up the pace of negotiations to reach a deal. But the final version seen by The Independent, which was drawn up after further behind-the-scenes negotiation, has downgraded the Brexit section with all reference to intensification removed. Now, this is partly what sparked the backlash and the response from the likes of Boris Johnson and the UK government spokesman even saying that effectively the trade talks were over because the EU were firstly downgrading this intensification of talks and secondly also demanding that the movement had to come from the UK side. And then we get this. So that was a few days ago last week. Then we get this yesterday. EU now agrees to intensify Brexit talks. The EU has agreed to intensify Brexit talks, Politico report, with the UK and start negotiations based on legal text as required by London, follow-on phone call between the chief negotiators. So I know we get a lot in the mainstream media in this country focusing on the UK side, but you've got the EU there. 1 minute they do want to intensify, the next minute they don't, the next minute they do. It's changing day by day. And let me give you another example of this, because we hear the government say that they want a Canada-style free trade deal without EU policy control. Well, this is what Charles Michel, now President of the European Council, said in 2018. It's there in black and white, ladies and gentlemen. From the very beginning, the EU offer has been a Canada plus deal, much further reaching on trade, internal security and foreign policy cooperation. This is a true measure of respect and this offer remains in place. Fast forward to 2020, the UK is saying, yes, let's have a Canada-style free trade deal. What do we get from Michel Barnier? Here's the report. Michel Barnier has rejected British demands for a Canada-style trade deal that would free the UK from EU rules. What are they playing at here? Intensify, don't intensify? Canada deal, no Canada deal? It's absolutely all over the place. And what you're seeing now, the difference between the Theresa May shambles and what you have now is at least you have a government willing to hold firm and stick the pressure on a bit against these bizarre changes, constant changes in position. Michael Gove in the House of Commons yesterday updating on Brexit talks, telling MPs that as it stood, a deal would not happen. The Cabinet Office Minister says the UK is absolutely committed to securing a Canada-style FTA, but there needs to be a fundamental change in approach from the EU to do it. The target date, of course, was last Thursday. He said both sides had agreed to work intensively. But then he reported to the House this intensification was not forthcoming. The EU was only willing to conduct negotiations on fewer than half the days available. Moreover, Gove said, the EU refused to discuss legal texts on any area. It's surprising to the UK that we have reached this point in negotiations without any common legal texts of any kind. Now, so this is the sort of bizarre behaviour of the EU. But what the government have done correctly is they stood firm on this. And then what you've had is the European Union negotiator Michel Barnier now agreeing to put everything on the table and intensify talks. They changed their minds again. Just as Brussels was accused of shutting down talks in the Commons, Gove, of course, telling MPs that the UK was walking away from Brexit trade talks because they were meaningless without a shift in the EU stance. The conclusions of that council, he said, reaffirmed the EU's original mandate. They dropped a reference intensive talks that has been in the draft, and they declared that all future moves in the negotiations had to be made by the UK, adding that it was almost incredible that the EU had so far refused to discuss legal texts so far. Now, during that same common stint, when he was up there was a development. So Michael Gove then said there's been a constructive move on the part of the EU, and I welcome that. telling the Commons, I prefer to look forward with optimism rather than necessarily look back in anger. And around this same time, Michel Barnier put out a tweet saying, I just spoke to David Frost, as stated by the President von der Leyen on Friday. I confirm that the EU remains available to intensify talks in London this week on all subjects and based on legal texts. We now wait for the UK's reaction. That was, of course, after the back end of last week, where, by all accounts, Barnier was basically told, don't even bother coming to London. And I want to point this out because this narrative is not really covered, that the EU's all over the place. Intensify, don't intensify. Canada deal, no, you can't have it. Their position changes like the wind, which is why you need a British government that doesn't get swept along with it, away with it, but decides firmly what this country wants, a Canada-style free trade deal or no deal. Either is fine with us. Now, one of the responses to Michel Barnier's tweet, which I think sums up for a lot of Brexiteers, was from a guy called Mark Vibond, saying, seems that Boris playing hardball might have helped the EU to look again at their lack of commitment to negotiations thus far. Here's hoping. Lord Frost, Frosty the No Man, tweeting out constructive discussion with Michel Barnier today, noted his proposal to intensify work as we have been asking. But the EU still needs to make a fundamental change in approach to the talks and make clear it has done so. We will stay in close touch. And what's interesting as well is the government spokesman has said that the UK will not be back to negotiating next year if a post-Brexit trade deal is not secured in the coming days, Downing Street has warned. Quoted as saying, we have been repeatedly clear that any agreement will need to be in place before the end of the transition period. We will not be back to negotiate further next year. We must provide assurance and certainty to our businesses and citizens, and prolonged negotiations won't achieve this. Going on to say, our view is that if the EU is willing to change their position, then we are willing to talk to them. But there is a track record of when you actually stand firm on these things, the EU moves. I'll give you another example. We had, of course, we have the UK Internal Market Bill, backed with a majority of 84 MPs in the House of Commons. Not a single Conservative MP voted against it. And we now see the unelected establishment, as I covered in another video, doing their best to get involved, doing their best to put the squeeze on that, even though it's had the backing, as I say, 84 majority of MPs in the House of Commons. But just remember, when the Telegraph, when Boris Johnson accused the EU of threatening to impose a food blockade in the Irish Sea that would destroy the economic and territorial integrity of the UK, so pretty serious stuff. Well, then of course, we saw the UK Internal Market Bill that can override elements of the rotten withdrawal agreement. What do you know? Huffington Post UK, EU tells UK it will not block food imports after Brexit transition. Michel Barnier told the UK it will have no issue getting the automatic right to continue exporting to the EU. HuffPost UK understands. There's a track record here. I know the establishment doesn't like it. Things get very upset when the UK actually properly stands up for itself on the world stage. A strong position is shown time and time again. As I said, the EU have blinked on this. Now they're agreeing to intensify. Hey, who knows? Maybe tomorrow they'll change their minds again. I don't know what they're playing at, quite frankly. But what we do know now, and the Express reporting this, is that Michel Barnier to hold emergency talks with David Frost today in bid to unblock deal. Michel Barnier will hold talks with the UK counterpart Lord Frost this afternoon in a bid to unblock the Brexit process after the EU's chief offered to resume negotiations was snubbed. Now, I know, guys, that an overwhelming majority of you want us to walk away now. You've had enough. But I'll just leave you with this thought. Nigel Farage, who was pretty much spot on all his predictions on this stuff, he still puts, he wrote it in the Express recently, the chance of a deal being at 75%. So, of course, there is a chance that we have a clean break. Of course, there is a chance that we have the no deal WTO outcome that I know you guys want, and we take back full sovereignty. But the chances, it looks still that a deal is more likely than not. And what exactly is in that deal, of course, the detail really matters. On fisheries, on the so-called level playing field, on lots of other things. So you can rely on the Westminster channel to stay on top of this story, to keep bringing you all the latest. But there you go. Another example of the EU blinking. Their position all over the place. Let's see if it changes again over the next few days. But I'll be on this story. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, if you found it helpful, informative, please help me out by giving this video a big thumbs up. Click subscribe and the bell. And of course, if you want to become a supporter, help me do these videos every day. If you appreciate that, please click that join button, become a supporter. Would really appreciate that. And of course, as ever, thank you very much for watching.